Hi, my name is Jake, and I am a bookish drummer. Welcome to my book haul video. These are the 18 books that I've acquired since I've done my last book haul, I believe. Hopefully I'm not forgetting any books, because this is already a lot of books, so hopefully I'm not forgetting any. But yeah, these are all the books that I've acquired since, I don't know, I think my last book haul was January or February, so this is like my March, April, May book haul. And I guess for like 3 months, it's not that bad. Also considering it's not bad because I've read a lot of these books already, so that's good. And because of that, this is probably going to be a shorter book haul because a lot of the books that I've already read, I kind of want to save my thoughts on it for my eventual wrap up. So yeah, without further ado, let's stop rambling and just jump right into it. So this is very haphazard. This is in no particular order. It's just like, these are the books I've bought and I'm just gonna talk about them at random. And the one on top here is Empire of Silence by Christopher Rucchio. I don't know how to pronounce your name, dude. But I've heard a lot of great things from many booktubers and many people on Discord. Apparently this is a very good blend of sci-fi and fantasy, I believe. I really don't know that much about it, but it's kind of a chunker, which, you know, I mean, I love chunky books, but like, first book in a series of sci-fi. Sometimes I don't have good luck with like long sci-fi novels. So we'll see what happens. I'll eventually get to it. Maybe not anytime soon, but definitely let me know what you guys think of this book. Another book I acquired is The Girl Who Outgrew the World by one of my favorite writers, Zoe Stage. Now, I've already read this, so I'm not going to say too much about it, but I will say I did really enjoy this. Even though this is her fourth work that I've read, it's a short novella. It's probably my least favorite from her. The ending didn't quite do it for me, but overall the book was pretty good, so I did have a really good time with it, and I'll talk more about it in my wrap-up. And this next book is a book that I've already read. I just didn't own it physically and I didn't want to buy the hardcover, so I had to wait until the paperback came out. And that would be My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones, one of my favorite Stephen Graham Jones novels that I read last year. Really good, and I'm definitely going to have to reread it eventually when the sequel comes out, but I'm definitely glad I now have a paperback copy of it. Another book that I bought that I'm very interested in reading is Final Girls by Riley Sager. Now, I've read 2 books by him at this point. Home Before Dark, which was 4 stars, and then Survive the Night, which was 3.5 stars. And I've heard that this book is like not so great for horror fans, but it's great for thriller fans. And it's weird because I'm both, so I'm very curious to see what my thoughts are on this book. So yeah, I will eventually get to this one as well. I also bought another Cormac McCarthy book, and that would be All the Pretty Horses, which I believe is the first book in the Border trilogy. Now, I recently read No Country for Old Men, and that was pretty good. I gave it 4 stars. So I'm interested in trying some of his other works. I think I'm going to be reading The Road in June, and then after that, if I like that one, I'll probably pick this one up because it's relatively short, and I also picked up the audiobook that was on sale for like $4, so pretty good. So I'll definitely let y'all know what I think of it when I get to it. The next book I have to talk about is an Ursula K. Le Guin book, and that would be The Left Hand of Darkness. Now, I've tried reading her fantasy, the Earthsea books, and I really couldn't get into it. I couldn't vibe with it. But I'm wondering if her writing style would work better for sci-fi. So I'm definitely going to try this book out, and hopefully it's good. I think it has a lot to do with gender, if I remember correctly. Or maybe that's another one of her series or books. I don't know, but I'm definitely interested in giving it a shot. This next book I bought at the end of March. I pre-ordered it a while ago by one of my favorite authors, and that would be Until the Last of Me by Sylvain Neville, one of my all-time favorite authors, probably my favorite sci-fi writer besides like Ray Bradbury. Yeah, he is tremendous, and this is the second book in his new trilogy, Take Them to the Stars. I didn't like it quite as much as book 1. I gave this book 4 stars. It's really good, and it ended in a way that like I have no idea what the hell is going to happen in book 3, and I love when authors can do that. So yeah, I love Sylvain Neville. The next book I have to talk about is yet another book that I've already read and that I absolutely loved, and that would be Hyperbole and a Half by Allie Brosh, or Broche. Still can't remember her name, but still very good book. It's very funny, it's hilarious, and it's kind of like a graphic novel where each chapter has these like stupid drawings, and it tells like a story in the author's life that really happened to her. It's just really funny. It's a really good time. It's definitely a book I could see myself rereading just because it takes like a couple hours to read. And it's super funny, 5 stars, one of the best books that I've read so far this year. Another book that I've acquired that I really liked was The Escape Room by Megan Golden. And yes, I read this and I really liked it. I don't have too much to say. I kind of want to save my thoughts for it in the wrap up. But yeah, I did really enjoy it. It's a thriller, and you know, like with a title like The Escape Room, you can kind of get a feeling of what it's going to be like. Although it is kind of different than what I expected it to be, but in a good way. I really liked it. Very good ending. Just really good overall. The next book I have to talk about is another thriller, but I have not read this book yet. I've heard from various people that this author is very good, and that would be The Perfect Stranger by Megan Miranda. Now, I know this author has written a book called, I think, All the Missing Girls, and that book was supposed to be written like backwards. Like it starts from the end and then works its way back to the beginning. I'm very curious to see how that works, but I found this at my local used bookshop for like very cheap. So I figured I might as well get it and eventually try her out at some point. The next book I have to talk about is yet another book that I've already read, so even though I'm buying books, I am reading them, which is good. But also all the other books that I bought over the years are still being unread. I'll save that problem for later. But anyway, I read Sadie by Courtney Summers. This is sort of like a YA mystery thriller kind of book. It was very good. It has a full cast narration for an audiobook, which of course I really love. And it also has a podcast element to it, which I need to find more books that are kind of like written as podcasts. That would be really cool. And yeah, I really like this book. I'll save more thoughts on it for later in my wrap up, but just know that I really enjoyed this book and I'm glad that I bought it. This next book is a book that I'm not particularly excited to read, but my girlfriend Stacey really wants me to read it. And it's funny because I got this book free on Thrift Books anyway because of like, every time you buy books, you get points, whatever. But I got this book for free. The edition that they sent me is hilarious because normally when I see it, it's in a very different, more modern edition. But this is like an old, cheesy 90s edition, which, it's kind of funny. And that would be Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. Yeah, Diana Gabaldon. Again, I'm not very excited to read this, but Stacey really loves this series, so I will eventually give it a shot. And we did make a deal that if I read this book, she has to read Imaginary Friend. So that's worth it, right? Right? The next book I bought at my local used bookstore for very cheap, and that would be Jar of Hearts by Jennifer Hillier. Sure. And this is yet another thriller that I don't really know too much about. Me and Stacey are going to eventually buddy read this, and it's funny because we both don't really know like what the main premise of this book is. All we know is that Sharon really liked it. So yeah, that's all we need to know, right? Right? This next book I pre-ordered a while ago, and it's by an author that I've loved a couple of her books. A couple of them I haven't so much, but she wrote a book called Mr. Splitfoot, which was one of my all-time favorite books when I read it. And so I wanted to support her, and so I got the Unwritten book by Samantha Hunt. And yeah, again, I don't really know too much about this book. All I know is that it's written by Samantha Hunt, so I'm at least willing to give it a shot. It's very short, and as far as I can tell, it's written in a kind of peculiar way. So I'm very interested to see how she writes it. It's definitely probably going to be more literary because even the horror book that I read by her, it was more literary than anything. So just very interested to see what this book is all about. Next book I have to talk about is a fantasy series, the first book in a 5-book completed fantasy series. So if I like the first book, then I can continue on and have a complete story. But from what I've heard, that the book 5 is not great, so who knows? And I don't even know if I like the first book or not. Anyway, I'm talking about The Black Prism by Brent Weeks. Stacey really likes this series, and yes, she's having a lot of influence on me lately, if you couldn't tell. But yeah, I am very interested to try this. I've tried reading his other series that he wrote before this, Night Angel. I liked the first book well enough, but the second book I DNF'd, I didn't really care for. And I've heard that this has a really cool kind of Sanderson-like magic system. So hopefully I enjoyed that. And yeah, hopefully I enjoyed overall. Who knows? This next book I'm very interested in trying, and it's actually written by the same author who wrote The Ninth Reign, which is very surprising because this is actually like a contemporary thriller mystery book kind of deal. And that would be A Dark and Secret Place by Jen Williams, same author as The Ninth Reign. And this just has a really cool premise where this daughter has this mother who committed suicide, and like she finds notes that like she's been writing letters to the serial killer, and then like other killings start happening. So it's a lot of weird stuff happening that I'm very interested to see what the hell this author is writing about. So if I like this, which I'll probably read this before I read Ninth Reign. If I like this, I might jump ahead and read Ninth Reign. I almost said Night Train. I'm on the night train. I'm on the night train. But anyway, if I like this book, I might read Ninth Reign. Who knows? But I have this book for now. This next book I blame entirely on Pete from The Ponderings of Pete. He's slowly making his way through this book and enjoying himself for the most part. And that would be Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. And it's a chunker. I will eventually give this a shot. I just don't know when I will. But I never really knew too much about this book. But the way he describes it, it's got a lot of dark comedy in it, which that's my favorite kind of comedy. So a book filled with that is bound to make me laugh and to make me like the book. So eventually I will give this a shot. Again, no idea when I will feasibly get to it. And the last and final book I have to talk about today is the last book that I got for Book of the Month before I canceled it, because we don't have to go into that, but the book that I got for Book of the Month was Bittersweet by Susan Cain, who is actually the same author who wrote Quiet, which was all about introverts and people being introverted, which is a very important book because a lot of people, like especially extroverts, they try to push people to be extroverted when really it's also important to be introverted, and it's also okay to be introverted. So that book really had a lot of impact on me and definitely a lot of introverts all across the world. So I'm very interested to see how this book is. And the subtitle is How Sorrow and Longing Make Us Whole, which is also a very important topic. So yeah, I will eventually read this. But yeah, probably not anytime soon. But yeah, it'll be a good nonfiction book to read whenever I feel in the mood to read nonfiction. All right, those are all of the books that I've acquired since I did my last book haul, which again, I believe was like January, February-ish. But yeah, I believe that's about 18 books, almost 20 books. So for like, what, 2.5, 3 months, it's not too many books. And I've read a lot of them. So I shouldn't feel too bad, right? Right? Anyway, let me know what you guys thought of this video down in the comments. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them. And also let me know if you're interested in trying out any of these books. I'd love to chat with you about it in the comments below. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and the Book Astronomer Discord. And if you'd like to further support me financially, go check out my Patreon page and see what that's all about. But anyway, thank you so much for watching and have a terrific day.